I was standing at my kitchen counter, hands covered in chocolate chip cookie dough, when my 15-year-old daughter Harper walked through the front door with 3 of her friends. Their laughter filled the hallway, that specific high-pitched giggle that only teenage girls seem to master. I smiled, ready to offer them fresh-baked cookies and lemonade like I always did. But then Harper's voice cut through the air, loud and dripping with embarrassment. Ugh, this is so typical. My mom does nothing all day except bake cookies and watch TV. It's so embarrassing that she's just a lazy stay-at-home mom while everyone else's parents have real careers. Her friends giggled nervously. I froze, cookie dough still clinging to my fingers. Harper rolled her eyes dramatically and added, "She's literally never accomplished anything in her entire life." Something inside me cracked wide open. The girls disappeared upstairs to Harper's room, their voices fading into muffled conversation and occasional bursts of laughter. I stood at the counter for what felt like an eternity, staring at the mixing bowl. My hands were shaking. I washed the dough off slowly, methodically, watching the water swirl down the drain. Each word Harper had spoken, replayed in my mind like a cruel recording. Lazy. Nothing all day. Never accomplished anything. I walked to my bedroom and closed the door behind me. The lock clicked softly. I sat on the edge of my bed and opened my laptop, typing in a password that only I knew. The screen illuminated my face as 3 different dashboards loaded simultaneously. Revenue reports, inventory management systems, customer analytics. Numbers that would make most people's heads spin. I am not a lazy stay-at-home mom. I am the CEO of 3 successful e-commerce businesses that generate $4.7 million in annual revenue. Let me back up. 12 years ago, when Harper was just 3 years old, my husband Mark lost his corporate job. The economy had tanked, his entire department got eliminated, and suddenly, we were facing foreclosure on our modest 2-bedroom house. Mark spiraled into depression. He sent out hundreds of resumes and got nothing back. I watched this confident, accomplished man crumble into someone I barely recognized, so I did what I had to do. I started researching online business models. I had a background in marketing from my college days, and I figured I could leverage that somehow. I started small with a dropshipping store selling organizational products for busy parents. I worked during Harper's nap times and after she went to bed. I reinvested every single penny I made. Within 6 months, I was making $3,000 a month. Within a year, $10,000. I launched a second business selling eco-friendly home goods, then a third focused on educational toys and materials. I used my maiden name, Sherry Bradley, for all the business registrations. I kept everything completely separate from our personal life. Mark eventually found work at a local hardware store. It paid $30,000 a year, barely enough to cover groceries. But I never told him about my businesses. Why? Because his ego was so shattered, his sense of identity so destroyed, that I genuinely believed telling him would break him completely. I thought I was protecting him. I thought I was protecting our marriage. Instead, I became a ghost. I funneled money into accounts that Mark believed were investments and savings he had managed before losing his job. I paid our mortgage on our new 5-bedroom house in an upscale Connecticut suburb. I paid Harper's $28,000 annual private school tuition. I paid for our 2 cars, our family vacations to Florida and California, our health insurance, everything. Mark thought his hardware store salary and those mysterious investments covered our comfortable lifestyle. He never questioned it because, I think, he was relieved not to face the truth of our finances. My schedule became a carefully choreographed dance. I woke up at 4 in the morning every single day and worked until 7. I managed inventory shipments, customer service issues, marketing campaigns, and vendor relationships. At 7, I transformed. I made breakfast, packed lunches, drove Harper to school. I grocery shopped, cleaned the house, did laundry, volunteered at school events. I played the role of the perfect housewife and mother. Then at 9 at night, after Harper went to bed and Mark dozed off watching television, I returned to my laptop and worked until midnight. 3 hours of sleep. Coffee became my best friend. Concealer became essential for hiding the dark circles under my eyes. But I kept going because I was good at this. Better than good. I was excellent. My businesses thrived. I expanded into international markets, I hired virtual assistants and contracted warehouses. I built something extraordinary from absolutely nothing, and nobody knew. Not my parents, not my sister, not my closest friends. I told everyone I was just a stay-at-home mom. Harper grew up seeing me bake cookies, drive carpool, and attend school assemblies. She never saw me negotiating with suppliers or analyzing profit margins. She had no idea that every privilege she enjoyed, every opportunity she had, came from my work. As I sat on my bed staring at those dashboards showing millions of dollars in transactions, I felt the weight of my daughter's words crushing my chest. She thought I was lazy. She thought I had accomplished nothing. And whose fault was that? Mine. I had hidden my light so thoroughly that my own daughter couldn't see it. My phone buzzed. A notification from one of my businesses. A customer left a 5-star review. This company changed my life. Best purchase ever. Thank you. I closed my eyes and made a decision. Harper needed to learn a lesson about respect, about assumptions, about the invisible work that women do, and I was going to teach her. The next morning, I woke at my usual 4 o'clock and went through my routine. I processed 47 customer orders, responded to 3 vendor emails, and approved a new marketing campaign. At 7, I made pancakes and bacon. Harper stumbled into the kitchen at 7:30, still in her pajamas, eyes barely open. "Morning, sweetheart," I said, keeping my voice neutral. She grunted in response and poured herself orange juice. No apology for yesterday, no acknowledgement of what she had said. She probably didn't even remember or realize I had heard. After she left for school, I sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop and logged into Harper's school portal. I checked it monthly, usually just glancing at grades and attendance. What I saw made my stomach drop. English, 52%. History, 48%. Math, 55%. My daughter was failing 3 classes. How had I missed this? I scrolled through the details. Missing assignments everywhere. Late homework. Notes from teachers about sleeping in class and lack of participation. The earliest failing grade was from 6 weeks ago. I clicked on the Communications tab and found 3 emails from the school sent to Mark's address. He was listed as the primary contact because I had set it up that way years ago, back when I was trying to make him feel more involved and important. He never checked that email account. I sat back in my chair, processing this new information. My daughter was not only disrespectful but also failing. She was coasting, not trying, apparently believing that success would just happen for her automatically. And why wouldn't she think that? From her perspective, we lived in a beautiful house. She attended an elite private school. She got everything she wanted. She had never seen anyone in our family struggle or work hard for anything because I had hidden all of that. That afternoon, Harper breezed in after school and immediately asked, "Mom, can I have $300? Jessica and I want to get new shoes at the mall this weekend." I almost said yes automatically. That was my pattern. Harper asked, I gave. But this time I stopped myself. $300 for shoes. Yeah, everyone has these new sneakers. I need them. Need or want. She looked at me like I had grown a second head. Before I could respond, she added, "Oh, and I need $1,500 for the school trip to Washington, D.C. next month." They sent home a form. She dropped a crumpled paper on the counter and headed upstairs. I smoothed out the permission slip. A 4-day educational trip to the nation's capital. Optional, of course, but Harper had already assumed she was going. Why wouldn't she? She had never been told no to anything expensive in her life. I picked up my phone and called the school. I asked to speak with Harper's guidance counselor, a woman named Amanda, who I had met briefly at orientation events. Amanda answered warmly and said she had been meaning to reach out to me. "About Harper's grades?" I asked. "Yes, that, but also her attitude lately." "Can you come in for a meeting?" We scheduled for the next morning. I spent the rest of the afternoon thinking about everything that had led to this moment. That evening at dinner, Harper chatted about her friends and some drama involving a boy named Tyler. Mark nodded along, asking occasional questions. They both seemed completely oblivious to the storm gathering on the horizon. The next morning, I met Amanda in her small office, decorated with motivational posters and college pennants. She was around my age, mid-30s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Thank you for coming in, Sherry," she said, gesturing to a chair. "I wanted to talk to you about some concerning patterns we're seeing with Harper." "The failing grades," I said. "You've seen the portal. Good. Yes, the grades are a problem, but it's more than that. Harper has been bragging to other students that she doesn't need to try hard because her family is rich. She's been dismissive in class, telling teachers that certain assignments are pointless because she'll be successful anyway. And several teachers have reported that she's made comments about her mother being just a housewife with no ambitions. That last one hit me like a physical blow." Amanda noticed my reaction and softened her tone. "I don't know your family situation, Sherry, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home parent. But Harper's attitude suggests she doesn't value hard work or education. She seems to think success is something that just happens to people rather than something you earn." I took a deep breath. Her father and I need to have a serious conversation with her. I think that would be beneficial. Harper is a bright girl, but she's developing some troubling entitled behaviors. She needs to understand that intelligence and privilege don't replace effort. I thanked Amanda and left, my mind racing. I had created this monster. By hiding my work, by making everything seem effortless, by always saying yes to every request, I had taught Harper that she didn't need to work for anything. I had given her every advantage while accidentally stripping away the most important lesson: the value of hard-earned achievement. That evening, I knew I needed to talk to Mark first. We needed to be united before confronting Harper, but I was also terrified. Mark and I had built our entire marriage on this foundation of comfortable lies. What would happen when I pulled that foundation away? I waited until Harper was upstairs doing homework, or at least pretending to do homework. Mark was in the living room watching a basketball game. I sat down next to him and muted the television. "We need to talk," I said. "It's important." He looked at me with concern. "Is everything okay? Are you sick?" "No, nothing like that. It's about money and Harper and our marriage." I took a breath, steadying myself. "Mark, I need to tell you something I should have told you 12 years ago." But before I could continue, Mark held up his hand and said the last thing I expected. "I already know about your businesses, Sherry." The world tilted. "What?" "Your e-commerce companies. The 3 businesses you run under your maiden name. The money. All of it. I know." I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. Mark turned to face me fully. "I found out 5 years ago. I saw an email notification pop up on your phone when you were in the shower. It was about a wire transfer for $150,000. I was confused. So when you left the house later, I looked at your laptop. You had left it open. I saw everything." 5 years, I whispered. "You've known for 5 years and never said anything." "I'm not proud of it, Sherry. I'm ashamed, actually." His voice cracked. "When I first found out, I felt so many things. Shock, obviously, but also humiliation. Here I was, working at a hardware store, making barely enough to cover gas and groceries, and my wife was running a multi-million-dollar empire. I felt like the biggest failure in the world." "You're not a failure," I started, but he shook his head. "Let me finish. Please, I need to say this." He rubbed his face with both hands. I kept pretending because facing the truth was too painful. Every day I went to that hardware store, helped customers pick out nails and paint, and came home to a life that my wife's hard work had built. And instead of being grateful, instead of being proud of you, I was resentful. I was angry, not at you, really, but at myself, at life, at the universe for making me feel so small. Tears were streaming down my face now. "Why didn't you say something? Why didn't we talk about this?" "Because I'm a coward," he said simply. "And because I did something terrible. I actively encouraged Harper to see you as just a mom. I told her stories about my old corporate days, made myself seem important. When she asked about how we afforded things, I told her it was my investments and savings from before. I let her believe that I was the provider, that you were just the homemaker. I undermined you, Sherry. I taught our daughter to disrespect you because it made me feel like less of a failure. I felt like I was going to be sick. You knew what you were doing, not consciously at first, but over time, yes. I knew. And I'm so sorry. He was crying now, too. Yesterday, when I heard Harper call you lazy, when I saw the look on your face, I realized what I had done. I created this. I taught our daughter that her mother's work was invisible and worthless, and I have to live with that. We sat in silence for a long moment. The basketball game played on the muted television, players running back and forth in a world that suddenly seemed very far away. I don't know if I can forgive you for this, I said quietly. Not right away. I understand. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I want to make it right. I want to tell Harper the truth. Together. I want to be honest for the first time in years. I need you to do something else too, I said. I need you to get help. Therapy. You need to deal with your ego and your insecurity, because this can't happen again. If we're going to stay married, if we're going to raise our daughter together, you need to work on yourself. I'll call someone tomorrow, he promised. I'll do whatever it takes. I nodded slowly. Okay, then let's talk to Harper. This Saturday. We'll sit her down and tell her everything. No more lies. No more pretending. Mark agreed. And we spent the next hour planning what we would say and how we would handle Harper's reaction. It felt strange, this new honesty between us. Uncomfortable, but also necessary, like resetting a broken bone. It hurt, but it was the only way to heal properly. Saturday morning arrived cold and gray. November weather settling into Connecticut with its usual gloom. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, my stomach churning with anxiety. Mark came down at 8, looking like he hadn't slept much either. Harper wandered down at 9:30, wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, scrolling through her phone. Harper, we need to talk, I said. Please sit down. She looked up, confused by my tone. Am I in trouble? Just sit, please. She sat, putting her phone face down on the table with obvious reluctance. Mark sat across from her, and I took the seat at the head of the table between them. Your mom and I need to tell you some things, Mark began. Important things about our family, about money, about truth. Harper's eyes darted between us. Are you getting divorced? No, I said quickly. But we haven't been honest with you, and that ends today. I pulled out my laptop and opened it, turning it so Harper could see the screen. I need to show you something. I pulled up the dashboards for all 3 of my businesses. Revenue graphs showing exponential growth over 12 years. Bank statements with balances that had multiple commas. Tax returns listing me as the CEO and primary income earner. Harper stared at the screen, her expression moving from confusion to disbelief. What is this? These are my businesses, I said. 3 e-commerce companies that I started 12 years ago and have been running ever since. They generate $4.7 million in annual revenue. Harper laughed, a sharp bark of sound. This is ridiculous. Mom, you don't even have a job. You're home all day. You make cookies and drive me to school. I do those things, I agreed. But I also work from 4 in the morning until 7, and then again from 9 at night until midnight. Every single day. I have for the past 12 years. I pulled up tax documents showing my name, Sherry Bradley, as the business owner. I showed her business licenses, articles written about my companies in trade publications, email correspondences with vendors from around the world. Harper's face went white. Her hands were shaking. But you're always home. You're always available. You make dinner every night. How can you be running 3 companies? Because I worked harder than you can possibly imagine, I said quietly. Because I sacrificed sleep and personal time and hobbies. Because I never told anyone, so nobody expected anything from me except the domestic work. I lived 2 lives, Harper. The one you saw and the one you never knew existed. She turned to Mark. Did you know about this? Mark took a deep breath. I found out 5 years ago, and I did something terrible. I pretended not to know. I let you believe that my old savings and investments paid for our lifestyle. I encouraged you to see your mom as just a homemaker because it made me feel important. I undermined her and lied to you, and am deeply sorry. Harper's shock was morphing into anger. You've both been lying to me my entire life. Yes, I said, but not maliciously. I hid my work because I thought I was protecting your father's ego after he lost his job. He was devastated, and I didn't want to make him feel worse. I made a choice to be invisible. Your father made a choice to stay silent when he found out. We both made mistakes, Harper. Big ones. She stood up abruptly, pacing the kitchen. I don't understand. All those mornings I saw your light on early. All those times you looked exhausted. The coffee you drank constantly. That was because you were working. Yes. Harper suddenly remembered something. Her eyes widened. That time in 4th grade when I came downstairs at 5 in the morning because I had a nightmare, and you were at the kitchen table with your laptop and you closed it really fast and said you were just checking recipes. You were working. I was negotiating a contract with a supplier in China, different time zones. And last year when I asked why you never came to the school fundraiser gala and you said you had a headache. But I heard you on the phone in your bedroom talking about quarterly projections. I was on a conference call with my accountant. Harper's face crumpled. She was seeing her entire childhood through a new lens, and it was shattering her understanding of reality. But I wasn't finished. Harper, sit down. There's more. She sank back into her chair, looking smaller now, younger. I pulled up her school portal on my laptop and turned it toward her again. You're failing 3 classes: English, history, and math. You're barely passing 2 others. You've been skipping homework, sleeping in class, and telling teachers that grades don't matter because you'll be successful anyway. Harper's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Your guidance counselor called me in for a meeting. She told me you've been bragging to friends that you don't need to try hard because your family is rich. She told me you called me a housewife with no ambitions. I didn't mean it like that, Harper stammered. Yes, you did. And you know what? It's partly my fault. I hid my success so well that you grew up thinking accomplishment was invisible and effortless. You thought our lifestyle just happened magically. You never saw anyone struggle or work hard because I hid all of that. So you developed this idea that success is something you're entitled to rather than something you earn. I closed the laptop and looked at my daughter directly. Starting today, everything changes. You will receive no money from me beyond absolute necessities. No shopping trips, no entertainment money, no extras. Your phone bill is a necessity, so that stays. Food and clothes are necessities, so those stay. But everything else stops. Mom, that's not fair. All my friends have money. I'll be the only one who can't go to the movies or get lunch after school. Then you'll learn what real life is like for most teenagers in America. You'll also get a part-time job. You're 15. You can legally work. You'll learn the value of earning your own money. What about the Washington, D.C. trip? She asked desperately. If you can earn the money yourself and bring all 3 failing grades up to at least a B average by the deadline, you can go. Otherwise, no. Harper looked at Mark imploringly. Dad, this is crazy. Tell her she's being crazy. Mark shook his head. Your mom is right, Harper. We've spoiled you and taught you terrible lessons. That ends now. I'm supporting this completely. Harper's eyes filled with tears. I can't believe this is happening. You're both insane. She stood up and ran upstairs. A moment later, her door slammed hard enough to shake the house. I looked at Mark. We were both exhausted, emotionally wrung out, but for the first time in years, maybe ever, we were on the same team. The next 2 weeks were tense and miserable. Harper barely spoke to either of us. She ate dinner in angry silence, did the bare minimum of chores, and spent all her free time in her room. I held firm on the new rules. When she asked for money for anything beyond necessities, I said no. When she complained that she was the only one without money, I suggested she get a job. Nobody's hiring. She argued, then you're not looking hard enough. She finally, resentfully, started filling out applications. Coffee shops, fast food restaurants, retail stores. She applied to 12 places and heard back from 3. 2 said she didn't have enough experience. The third, a coffee shop called Brewhaven, located about 2 miles from our house, offered her an interview. I drove her there on a Tuesday afternoon. She slouched in the passenger seat, radiating hostility. This is humiliating, she muttered. Working is not humiliating. Entitlement is humiliating. She got out of the car without responding and walked into Brewhaven. I waited in the parking lot for 30 minutes, answering emails on my phone. When Harper came back out, she looked slightly less angry. "I got the job," she said, getting into the car. $12 an hour. "I start Saturday." "That's great, honey." "It's really not." Her first shift was Saturday morning, 6 hours from 8 until 2. I dropped her off and picked her up. She climbed into the car looking exhausted, her hair smelling like coffee and her feet apparently killing her based on how she groaned when she sat down. "How was it?" I asked. "Horrible. My feet hurt. People are so rude. This woman yelled at me for putting cream in her coffee when she wanted it black, but she didn't tell me that when she ordered. She literally screamed at me in front of everyone. Welcome to customer service. How do people do this every day? Because they have to. Because they have bills to pay and responsibilities to meet. That's life, Harper." She worked 3 shifts a week, sometimes 4, 15 to 20 hours total. She came home exhausted every time, complaining about rude customers, her aching feet, the early morning shifts, the smell of coffee that she couldn't get out of her hair. But she kept going, and slowly, very slowly, I saw something shift. 3 weeks into her job, she came home and actually smiled when she told me about a regular customer who left her a $5 tip and said she made the best vanilla latte in Connecticut. "It felt really good," she admitted. "Like I did something well." I said, "That's what earned accomplishment feels like." Her grades were improving too. She brought English up to 78%, history to 81%, math to 75%. Still not great, but better. She was trying. She spent hours at the kitchen table doing homework, asking me for help with essay structures and historical analysis. We hadn't had these kinds of conversations in years. One evening in early December, about 4 weeks after she started at Brewhaven, Harper came home looking thoughtful. We were making dinner together, something that had become a new routine. She was chopping vegetables while I marinated chicken. "My boss, Caroline, is really cool," Harper said casually. "She owns 3 Brewhaven locations and she's opening a 4th one next year." "That's impressive." "How old is she?" "I don't know, 35 maybe?" "She's really nice and patient, even when I mess up orders." Today I asked her how she started the business, and she said she built it from nothing. She started with one tiny location 10 years ago. That takes incredible hard work and dedication. Yeah, she said someone mentored her and taught her everything about business. A woman who ran some entrepreneurship program. My hands stilled on the chicken. A cold feeling spread through my chest. She said the woman's name was Sherry Bradley. She said this Sherry Bradley changed her life, taught her how to build a business from scratch, and did it all for free through this mentorship program she ran. Harper turned to look at me, her eyes wide. "Bradley is your maiden name. Is that you? Did you mentor my boss?" I set down the fork I was holding and turned to face my daughter. "Yes, that's me. 8 years ago, I started a mentorship program for women who wanted to start businesses but didn't have resources or knowledge. I've mentored over 200 women. Caroline was one of the first." Harper just stared at me. "I didn't know. You never told me. I never told anyone. It was part of the same secret as my businesses. I ran it all quietly." That night, after Harper went to bed, I heard her moving around in her room long past midnight. The next morning at breakfast, she had dark circles under her eyes, but she looked at me differently. There was something new in her expression. Respect. Maybe. Or at least the beginning of understanding. "I Googled you last night," she said quietly. "Sherry Bradley entrepreneur. There are articles about you, interviews. You gave a TED Talk that has 300,000 views. You've won awards. You were in Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine." I nodded, sipping my coffee. "Yes. Why didn't you ever tell me? Why didn't you show me any of this?" "Because I was trying to protect your father. And because I had gotten so used to being invisible that I forgot how to be visible. I made mistakes, Harper. Big ones. I see that now." She was quiet for a moment, pushing her eggs around her plate. "I watched your TED Talk. You talked about balancing work and family. You mentioned having a daughter. You said you hoped you were teaching her that women can do anything." Her voice cracked. "But I didn't even know. I called you lazy. I said you never accomplished anything. And the whole time you were doing all this. You didn't know because I didn't tell you. That's on me. But I should have been more respectful anyway." Even if you were just a stay-at-home mom, which is hard work too. I should never have said those things. She wiped her eyes. I'm really sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I reached across the table and took her hand. I forgive you. And I'm sorry too. Sorry for hiding. Sorry for not teaching you better lessons earlier. We're both learning. A few days later, Harper came home from work buzzing with excitement. She found me in my office, the small spare bedroom where I kept my laptop and files. The room she thought was just for household paperwork. Mom, I told Caroline the truth today. That you're my mom. She freaked out. She said you changed her life. That she wouldn't have her business without you. She said you believed in her when nobody else did. That you spent hours on the phone with her teaching her everything, and you never asked for anything in return. Harper sat down on the chair across from my desk. How many women have you helped like that? I've lost count. Over 200, definitely. Some went on to build successful businesses. Others decided entrepreneurship wasn't for them but learned valuable skills. A few became friends. It's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. Why do you do it? For free, I mean. Because someone should have done it for me when I was starting out. Because women, especially mothers, face so many barriers in business. I went about my day as usual, working through the morning, running errands in the afternoon. At 2:30, my phone rang. It was Harper, and she was crying. Mom, you need to come home. Or I need to come home. I don't know. I just need to see you. What's wrong? Are you hurt? No, I'm not hurt. Please, can you pick me up? I'll be there in 10 minutes. I drove to the school with my heart pounding, terrified something terrible had happened. Harper was waiting outside the main entrance, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her face blotchy from crying. She got in the car and immediately hugged me, something she hadn't done in months. What happened? I asked, holding her tight. The assembly. It was about you. What? She pulled back and wiped her face. The principal said they were honoring local entrepreneurs. They showed this video. It was women talking about you, Mom. Women you mentored. Caroline was in it. There were like 20 other women. They all talked about how you changed their lives. One woman said you helped her escape an abusive relationship by teaching her to start a business so she could support herself. Another woman said you mentored her for free while running 3 companies and raising a family, and she didn't understand how you did it all. Harper's voice broke again. And then the principal said you've been anonymously funding scholarships at our school for 5 years. 10 students are at our school on full scholarships that you paid for. 10 kids who couldn't afford it otherwise. I had no idea. Nobody knew it was you. I was stunned. I didn't know they were doing this. I never told the school about my businesses or the scholarships. How did they find out? I don't know. But they invited you to the stage. The whole auditorium stood up and clapped. Everyone was looking around, wondering where you were. The principal said you must not have been able to attend, but they wanted to honor you anyway. And then after the assembly, all my friends surrounded me saying how amazing you are, asking if I could introduce them to you. The same friends who were there when I called you lazy. She covered her face with her hands. I'm so ashamed, Mom. Everyone at school now knows that my mom is this incredible person who helps people and funds scholarships and builds businesses. And I'm the daughter who called her a lazy housewife. I felt like the worst person in the world. I pulled over into a parking lot and turned to face her fully. Harper, listen to me. You made a mistake. A big one. Yes. But you've been working so hard to fix it. You got a job. You improved your grades. You've been trying. That's what matters. Not the mistake, but what you did after. But I hurt you so much. Yes, you did. But you've also shown me you can learn and grow. That's all any parent wants, honey, to see their kid become a better person. We sat in the parking lot for a while, talking and crying and healing a little more. When we got home, Harper went straight to her room. I heard her on the phone, presumably with friends, her voice animated. Later, she came downstairs and showed me her phone. She had posted on social media. Just found out my mom is basically a superhero. Feeling grateful and humble. Love you, Mom. The next morning, the principal called me. Her name was Dorothy, a woman in her late 50s who had been at the school for 20 years. Sherry, I owe you an apology. I hope the assembly yesterday didn't upset you. One of our board members is married to a woman you mentored. Caroline, actually, from Brewhaven. Caroline mentioned you in passing, and when our board member looked you up, she discovered everything. Your businesses, your mentorship program, the scholarships. We wanted to honor you, and I thought you knew we were planning the assembly. I assumed someone had contacted you. No one did, but it's okay. It was actually perfect timing. Your daughter must be very proud of you. She's learning to be, I said. We're all learning. That evening, Harper asked to talk to me privately. We sat in my office, the room that now felt less like a secret hiding place and more like a normal workspace. Mom, I want to pay for part of the DC trip myself. I've been saving my paychecks from Brewhaven. I have $432. I know the trip costs $1,500, so I can't pay for all of it, but I want to contribute. I don't deserve you paying for everything after how I treated you. I felt tears prick my eyes. Harper, that's incredibly mature of you. I also brought my grades up. English is at 87 now. History is at 89. And math is at 82. I've been studying really hard. I even joined a study group. I'm so proud of you. So can I go on the trip? If I pay for part of it and keep my grades up? Yes. You've earned it. She smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. Then she handed me an envelope. I also wrote you something. You don't have to read it now, but I wanted you to have it. After she left, I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter on notebook paper, her handwriting careful and deliberate. Dear Mom, I don't even know where to start. I'm so sorry for calling you lazy and saying you never accomplished anything. I'm sorry for taking everything for granted and not seeing how hard you work. I'm sorry for being disrespectful and entitled. You didn't just support our family financially, which is amazing enough. You also helped hundreds of women build better lives. You funded scholarships for kids who needed them. You built businesses from nothing. You did all of this while still being there for me every single day, making my lunches and driving me to school and helping with homework. I didn't see any of it because I wasn't looking. But now I see you, Mom. I really see you. And you're the strongest, most incredible person I know. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for teaching me these hard lessons, even though it would have been easier to just keep giving me everything I wanted. I'm going to work hard to become someone you can be proud of. I love you so much. Harper. I read it 3 times, crying harder each time. Then I went upstairs and hugged my daughter and told her I loved her too. We were going to be okay. We were already okay. 3 months after Harper called me lazy in front of her friends, our family looked completely different. Harper maintained her grades, all of them now above 85%. She continued working at Brewhaven and had even gotten a small raise to $13 an hour. She went on the school trip to Washington, D.C. and came back full of stories about museums and monuments. But the biggest change was something I didn't expect. One evening in late February, Harper came to me with a business proposal. Mom, I want to start a business. A small one, nothing like yours. But I've been thinking about something. At school, everyone struggles with studying and organizing notes. What if I created study guides and notes for different classes and sold them online? I could start with my own school, the subjects I'm taking, and expand from there. She had thought it through. She showed me market research she had done, pricing models, even a rough website mock-up. She wanted to call it Study Smart Guides. If you help me, will you mentor me like you mentor those other women? But I want to invest my own money from my job. I've saved almost $2,000. I want this to be mine. I agreed, but with conditions. She had to maintain her grades, keep her job, and do all the work herself. I would guide and advise, but she had to execute everything. She agreed immediately. Over the next month, Harper built her website, created her first 5 study guides, and launched Study Smart Guides. She made her first sale within a week. A student from another school who found her through social media. $15. She was more excited about that $15 than she had ever been about the hundreds I used to give her freely. I earned this, she said, staring at the notification on her phone. This is mine. She experienced her first difficult customer 2 weeks later. Someone who complained that a study guide wasn't detailed enough and demanded a refund. Harper came to me in tears, wanting to quit. "This is part of business," I told her. "Not everyone will be happy. You learn, you improve, and you keep going." "Did you handle the refund professionally?" "Yes. I apologized and gave them their money back immediately." "That's good customer service. Now take their feedback and make your next guide even better." She did. Within 2 months, Study Smart Guides was earning about $300 a month. Not life-changing money, but significant for a 16-year-old. More importantly, Harper was learning lessons that would serve her for life. She was learning about hard work, about failure, about persistence, about the satisfaction of building something yourself. She also hired 2 of her friends as contractors, teaching them what I had taught her. She became a leader, a mentor in her own small way, and she stopped taking anything for granted. Meanwhile, Mark was going through his own transformation. He attended therapy every week, working through his ego issues and his insecurity. One evening in March, he came home with news. "I enrolled in a project management certification program," he announced at dinner. "It's online, 6 months long. I'm going to rebuild my career properly this time." "That's wonderful," I said, and I meant it. I also applied for a position at a local construction company. Project coordinator. It pays $65,000 a year. I have an interview next week. Harper looked at her father with something like pride. "That's really cool, Dad." He got the job. He started in April, and for the first time in 12 years, he came home talking about challenges and accomplishments and goals. He was rebuilding himself, finally, and doing it the right way. As for me, I made a decision that spring. I was done hiding. I updated my social media profiles to reflect my businesses. I told extended family and friends. I started accepting speaking engagements and podcast interviews. Some people were shocked. Some were supportive. Some were jealous. I realized I didn't need anyone's approval or validation. I was simply done being invisible. On a Saturday morning in May, I sat in my office at 5 in the morning with my coffee, my laptop glowing in the pre-dawn darkness. This had been my routine for 12 years, but it felt different now. Lighter. I looked at the family photo on my desk, taken just last week. Mark in his new work clothes, looking confident and happy. Harper holding up her phone showing her latest Study Smart Guide sale, grinning widely. Me in the middle, no longer hiding, no longer invisible. I thought about the journey that had brought us here. Harper's cruel words that day in the kitchen had cracked something open in our family. That crack had let in light and air and truth. It had been painful, so painful, but necessary. I had learned that hiding my success hadn't protected anyone. It had only taught the wrong lessons. It had made my husband feel small and my daughter feel entitled. It had robbed all of us of authenticity. Real love, I realized, isn't about protecting people from reality. It's about showing up as your full self, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about letting people see your struggles and your triumphs, your failures and your victories. It's about being honest. The greatest gift I had given Harper wasn't the money for her private school or the comfortable house or the nice vacations. It was teaching her that respect is earned through character and effort, not given through obligation. It was showing her that women can build empires while baking cookies, that success isn't loud and flashy but often quiet and persistent, that the most important work we do is often invisible, until someone decides to really look. And sometimes, I thought, the kindest thing you can do for someone you love is let them struggle, let them fail, let them work for something and feel the pride of earning it. That's not cruelty, that's love, that's parenting, that's preparing someone for real life. I opened my laptop and started working through my morning tasks. Orders to process, emails to answer, problems to solve. The same work I had done for 12 years, but now everyone knew. Now I could talk about it, share it, own it. I was no longer a ghost in my own life. The sun started to rise outside my window, painting the Connecticut sky in shades of pink and gold. Somewhere upstairs, my daughter and husband were sleeping, both of them working on becoming better versions of themselves. We weren't perfect. We still had hard days and difficult conversations, but we were honest now. We were real, and that made all the difference. I closed my eyes for a moment and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, pride, A quiet sense of accomplishment that didn't need anyone else's validation. I had built businesses, helped hundreds of women, raised a daughter, supported a family, and stayed true to myself even when that self had been hidden away. Now I was visible. Now we were all visible. And life was just beginning. I want to ask you something. Have you ever hidden parts of yourself to protect someone else's feelings? Have you ever realized that your silence was teaching the wrong lessons to the people you love? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories and perspectives. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like. Subscribe to hear more stories about real-life struggles and triumphs. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their invisible work matters, that their hidden efforts count, that they don't need to shrink themselves to make others comfortable. Your story matters. Your work matters. You matter. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope it reminded you that it's never too late to stop hiding, never too late to teach better lessons, never too late to become visible in your own life. May you find the courage to show up as your full self, and may you teach the people you love that real success comes from honest effort, authentic living, and the willingness to be seen. Take care, and remember that you are so much more than what people see on the surface.